Not just listening, but truly hearing. When did your words start getting brushed aside? When did your advice become something they tolerate instead of treasure? Before we get started, I'd love to know where you're joining me from today. Drop a comment below and feel free to ask any questions you have. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a health-boosting tip from Elders Guidance. Maybe you found yourself walking on eggshells, holding your tongue, or replaying old memories where things felt different, closer, more respectful, more loving. And now what you feel most often is distance, silence, disrespect. It hurts, doesn't it? And yet you tell yourself to be patient. You say, they're busy. You excuse the sharp tone, the eye rolls, the forgotten calls, because you're trying to keep the peace. Because you're afraid that standing up might push them even further away. But deep down, you know something has to change. You've spent a lifetime giving. You've built, nurtured, supported, sacrificed, and none of that should be erased just because the roles are shifting. Age doesn't make you less. It makes you more, wiser, stronger, deserving, not of pity, but of presence, of dignity, of respect. So let me ask you this. What if the key to earning back that respect isn't in what you say to your children, but in what you say to yourself? What if the shift starts with you, not begging, not blaming, but becoming? In today's episode of Elders Guidance, we're not going to talk about how to fix your kids. We're going to talk about how to reclaim something far more powerful. Your confidence, your voice, and your place at the table. Because you don't have to fade into the background of your own life. Stay with us. This could be the beginning of something better than you imagined. Respect doesn't vanish overnight. It fades, quietly, subtly, often without warning. One day your children are looking up to you, asking for your guidance, depending on your wisdom. The next, they're adults, with careers, families, opinions, and suddenly you're no longer in the center of their world. And that's natural. Life evolves. But sometimes in that shift, something else sneaks in, something harder to accept. Disregard, dismissiveness, distance. You start noticing it in small ways. They interrupt you mid-sentence. They brush off your suggestions. They make decisions that affect you without ever asking how you feel about it. And the worst part? You start questioning yourself. Am I overreacting? Am I being too sensitive? You try to stay quiet, to keep the relationship smooth, to avoid becoming that parent who nags or complains. But let's tell the truth here. What you're feeling is real, and you're not alone. This shift happens in nearly every family at some point. As children grow into adults, the family dynamic changes. The balance of power, attention, and emotional dependence gets rearranged, and often, without warning or conversation. Sometimes your children forget that you're still you. The person who held them through nightmares, stood by them through failures, and sacrificed more than they'll ever know. They begin to see you not as the person who shaped their world, but as someone who now needs help. Someone who should stay quiet to avoid being a burden. But here's the thing. You are not fragile. You are not fading. You are evolving. The world often underestimates what it means to grow older. But aging isn't about becoming less. It's about becoming more. More thoughtful, more deliberate, more in touch with what truly matters. The truth is, your children's behavior isn't always about you. It's often about them, their stress, their busyness, their own unspoken fears about aging, control, and identity. But that doesn't mean you have to accept disrespect. Understanding why the shift happens is just the first step. What matters now is how you respond to it. Not with guilt, not with anger, but with a quiet, steady power that comes from knowing who you are and knowing you don't need anyone's permission to be treated with dignity. This is not about confrontation. It's about transformation. And in the next section, we'll start that transformation together. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way. There's a quiet strength that comes with age. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply is. And yet, somewhere along the way, many of us start to let that strength slip away. Not because we're weak, but because we've been conditioned to keep the peace. Especially with our children. You tell yourself, it's not worth the argument. You bite your tongue when they talk over you. You say yes when everything inside you wants to say no. You shrink just a little so they feel bigger. But here's a truth you may have forgotten. You teach people how to treat you. And if you treat yourself like you don't matter, they will too. This doesn't mean you need to raise your voice or put your foot down in dramatic fashion. That's not power. That's posturing. Real power lives in posture, not volume. In self-respect, not self-sacrifice. Think about it. When was the last time you spoke your mind without cushioning it, apologizing for it, or softening it for someone else's comfort? You have every right to express your truth, without apology, without guilt, and without fear of being seen as difficult. Being clear doesn't make you confrontational. It makes you real. It's time to replace old habits that no longer serve you. Instead of saying, "I don't want to be a bother," try, "Here's what works for me." Instead of, "It's okay, I understand you're busy," try, "Let's find a time that works for both of us." Instead of avoiding conversations because they might not like it, say what needs to be said, with calm, with clarity, and with kindness. You don't owe anyone silence to keep their comfort. And if you're thinking, "But what if they pull away if I speak up?" Consider this. If they distance themselves because you started respecting yourself, then maybe the relationship wasn't balanced to begin with. Standing in your power doesn't mean standing alone. It means standing whole. Let me share a story with you. There was a woman named Diane, retired, wise, and deeply loved by her grandchildren. But her adult daughter treated her like she had nothing valuable left to offer. She constantly interrupted her, made family plans without consulting her, and often spoke to her like she was a burden. Diane stayed quiet for years, believing that silence meant keeping the peace. But one day, during a conversation where she was interrupted again, she calmly said, "I'll finish what I was saying, and then you're welcome to share your thoughts." Her daughter blinked, surprised, but said nothing. The next time, Diane set a boundary about unannounced visits. The next time, she didn't rearrange her entire day for a last-minute request. She didn't yell. She didn't argue. She simply acted like someone who respected herself. And over time, her daughter adjusted. She listened more. She planned better. She began to see her mother as the full person she'd always been. Because that's what happens when you change your behavior. Others follow your lead. If you've been dimming your light to make others comfortable, I'm here to tell you, it's time to turn it back on. Respect starts on the inside, not with confrontation, but with quiet, consistent action. So here's something you can do right now. Think back to 3 recent moments when you didn't speak your truth. Write them down. Ask yourself why you held back. Now, rewrite those same moments with a response that honored your voice. Not to send, just to see. To remember that your thoughts matter, that your time matters, that you matter. You don't have to yell to be heard. You just have to stop whispering in rooms where you once led. And the moment you begin to carry yourself like someone who expects respect, not through force, but through presence, you will see it return. Not instantly, not always perfectly, but steadily and surely. You've earned that simply by being you. There's a part of you that never stops being a parent. Even when your children are grown, independent, and fully capable of managing their own lives. That instinct to protect, to provide, to make it easier for them, it doesn't go away. But sometimes, without realizing it, that instinct turns into a trap. You keep giving, you keep fixing, you keep saying yes. Not because they truly need it, but because you don't know who you are without being needed. You say to yourself, "That's just what parents do." Or worse, "They've got so much on their plate. I can handle a little more." Or maybe, "If I stop helping, will they even come around anymore?" These thoughts don't make you weak. They make you human. But if your giving is fueled by guilt or habit, it's not generosity. It's survival. And it slowly chips away at your peace. You don't owe your adult children your time on demand. You don't owe them money every time they overspend. You don't owe them silence when something hurts. You owe yourself honesty. You owe yourself rest. You owe yourself permission to be more than a parent. Let's talk about what parenting from guilt looks like in real life. You say yes to babysitting even when you're exhausted. You bite your tongue when they cancel plans last minute. For the 3rd time, you loan money you can't afford to spare. You cook dinner every week even though you never get a thank you. And each time you do, you tell yourself, "It's fine. It's what I'm supposed to do." But here's the thing. You're not supposed to pour from an empty cup. You're not being selfish by protecting your energy. You're being smart. And you're being fair to yourself and to them. Because when love is built on guilt, it doesn't feel like love anymore. It feels like pressure and resentment and obligation. You have the right to redefine your role in their lives. Not as a fixer, not as a doormat, but as a whole, wise, independent adult who still has dreams of your own, who values peace, rest, joy, and self-respect just as much as they do. Let me tell you about a man named Harold. He's in his early 70s. For years, his adult son leaned on him financially, small things here and there, but it added up. Car repairs, rent shortages, groceries. Harold never said no, not once, even when it meant dipping into his retirement savings. He told himself it was love. That's what parents do. Until the day he found himself losing sleep, worried about his bills, his health, his future, and he realized something heartbreaking. His son didn't expect him to say yes all the time. He just assumed he would, because Harold never gave him a reason to think otherwise. So Harold made a change. The next time his son asked for money, he said, "I love you, but I can't do that right now." And you know what happened? Nothing exploded. The relationship didn't fall apart. His son adjusted. He figured it out. And Harold? He slept better that night than he had in years. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection. It tells your children, I trust you to handle your life, and I trust myself to take care of mine. This is not the end of being a parent. It's the beginning of being something more. You raised them, you shaped them, you showed up for them. Now, it's time to show up for you. For so long, your identity may have been wrapped in one role. Mom, dad, provider, protector. You woke up thinking about what your children needed. You made decisions with them in mind. You gave your time, your energy, your whole self, and you did it out of love, real, deep, unconditional love. But now, they're living their own lives, and if you're honest with yourself, there are days where it feels like you're just waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for the next visit, waiting to feel like you matter again. That waiting, that sense of pause, isn't just lonely, it's heavy, because it feels like your story has become a side note in theirs. But here's the truth. You are not meant to sit on the sidelines of your own life. You are still here, still breathing, still capable of joy, curiosity, growth, laughter, love. This stage of life isn't the end of the road. It's the start of a new chapter. One where you're no longer just someone's parent. You're you again. You can reinvent. You can explore. You can build a life so full, so rich, so inspiring, that your children start to see you with new eyes. Let me tell you about Rosa. She was 68, newly retired, and completely lost. Her 2 kids had moved away, and the house felt too quiet. She didn't know what to do with herself, so one day, she joined a watercolor class at the local community center, just to pass the time. What started as a casual hobby became a passion, then a talent, then a small gallery showing. Her kids at first barely noticed, but as she started posting her artwork online, they began to call, not just out of duty, but with genuine interest. "Mom, I saw your painting on Facebook. That's amazing. Can you send me a photo of the one you did last week?" Rosa didn't do it to impress them. She did it for herself, and that's exactly why it worked. When your life is full, people want to be part of it. So here's the question. What lights you up? Is it gardening, writing, hiking, photography, genealogy, volunteering at a shelter, a library, a museum? Is it dancing, cooking, learning a new language, starting a podcast, leading a discussion group? There are endless possibilities, and none of them are too late. You could even create a joy portfolio, a simple list of things you want to try or return to, things that are just for you, no one else. Just joy for joy's sake. Because when you're living a meaningful life, one that's filled with connection and curiosity, something powerful happens. Your children stop seeing you as someone waiting around. They start seeing you as someone becoming. They'll want to call, not because they feel guilty, but because they're proud, because they're inspired, because they miss the light in your voice. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to wait for their approval anymore. You don't have to measure your worth by how often they visit or what they say. You are building something real, and it's yours. So today, I want to invite you to take one small step. Just one. Sign up for a class. Call an old friend. Walk a new trail. Order that book you've been thinking about for years. Paint. Dance. Breathe. Not because someone told you to, but because you deserve to live a life that excites you. And if you're wondering where to start, scroll down to the comments and share one thing you've always wanted to try. Just one. We read every single one. And this space, it's for you. This is your time, not to disappear, but to rise. There's a myth many of us grew up with, that love means saying yes. Yes to helping. Yes to giving. Yes to sacrificing no matter the cost. And especially when it comes to your children, saying no can feel wrong, even selfish, like somehow you're turning your back on your duty as a parent. But let's reframe that, because the truth is, love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's a slow erasing of yourself. And that erasure doesn't bring people closer. It pushes them away. It teaches them they can take without asking, speak without listening, and treat your presence as optional. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors with locks. And you decide who gets a key. When you set boundaries with your children, you're not being cold. You're being clear, you're not punishing them, you're protecting yourself. And when done with calm, kindness, and consistency, boundaries don't harm relationships. They heal them. They create structure. They define respect. Here's the good news. You don't need to be loud to be firm. You don't need to argue. You don't need to over-explain. You just need to trust that your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being matter. Let's walk through some practical ways to do this. Start by remembering this phrase. That doesn't work for me. It's simple. It's honest. And it doesn't invite debate. You don't have to justify why. You don't have to apologize. You're not saying you won't help. You're saying you can't. Not like this. Other phrases you can keep in your back pocket. Let's revisit this another time. I'm not available that day. I'm not comfortable with that. I'd be happy to help, but I need more notice next time. I hear what you're saying, but I need to take some time to think it over. I can't continue this conversation if I'm not being respected. Each of these statements is respectful, firm director, and empowering. Now let's bring this to life with a quick example. Imagine this. It's Sunday afternoon. You've planned a quiet evening for yourself. A book, a walk, maybe a glass of wine. Your adult daughter calls, "Hey, can you babysit the kids tonight? I forgot I made plans. I'll drop them off in an hour." Old habit might say yes. You don't want to disappoint her. You want to be helpful. But today, you pause. You breathe. You say, "I love spending time with the kids, but tonight doesn't work for me. I need to take care of myself today." She may be surprised, maybe even frustrated, but over time she'll adjust. She'll understand that your time isn't endless, your energy isn't automatic, and your availability is not a given. That's a boundary, and it's loving, because it says, "I care about you, and I care about me too." Now here's where it gets emotional, because this part catches many of us off guard. Setting boundaries will stir up feelings, guilt, fear, doubt. What if they get mad? What if they pull away? What if I lose them? But the truth is, what you're losing isn't a relationship. You're losing the illusion of peace built on your silence. And what you gain is far more powerful. You gain clarity. You gain sleep. You gain self-respect. You gain the deep, quiet relief that comes from finally taking up space in your own life. We spend so many years giving our children everything: our time, our money, our attention, our bodies, our hearts. We do it without regret, but there comes a moment where the giving has to evolve. It can't just be automatic. It has to be mutual, thoughtful, respectful. If your children are used to crossing boundaries, don't blame yourself. Patterns form over time, but the moment you choose to break that pattern, you open a door to something better. Let's do something together. Picture a moment in the past month where you felt disrespected or overlooked by your children. Write it down. What happened? What did you say or not say? Now imagine how you wish you had responded. Write that version out. Maybe it's, "I'd love to support you, but I need more notice." Or, "We can talk, but not if you're going to raise your voice." Feel the difference in your body as you say it. That version of you, the one who speaks up without anger, who protects her time, who honors his limits, that version is not selfish. That version is free. And here's a gift from us to you. We've created a downloadable set of boundary-setting phrases you can keep on your phone, print out, or post on your fridge. Just gentle, firm language you can reach for when your voice is tired, but your heart still wants to speak clearly. Encourage viewers to check the video description for the download link. And remember, you're not doing this to shut people out. You're doing it to let them in, on your terms. You're not demanding respect, you're modeling it. And that is how change begins. Giving is part of who you are. For years, maybe decades, you've given your time, your support, your love, without hesitation. Whether it was money, meals, rides, advice, or emotional support, you gave because it felt good, because you wanted to, because it's how you show love. But over time, something changes. The giving doesn't feel as light as it once did. The gratitude starts to fade. The requests keep coming, but the thank yous don't. And without realizing it, giving becomes something else entirely. A transaction. You give, hoping it will bring closeness. You help, hoping it will bring appreciation. You say yes, hoping it will earn a little more respect. And suddenly, what used to come from love now comes with an invisible price tag. Please see me, please value me, please remember I matter. When giving turns into emotional currency, it loses its power. Let's call this what it is: overgiving. Overgiving is when you do more than you want to, more than you should, more than is healthy, for others who do not reciprocate in time, energy, or effort. It's exhausting, it's frustrating, and over time, it builds resentment, not connection. So how do you break that cycle? You start by noticing the signs. You feel drained after giving, instead of fulfilled. You catch yourself doing things out of obligation, not joy. You feel unseen or taken for granted. You've begun to expect a response and feel hurt when it doesn't come. These aren't just emotions, they're signals that it's time to shift from constant giving to something more powerful: selective generosity. Selective generosity doesn't mean withholding love. It means giving where your love can breathe, where it's received with care, acknowledged, and respected. This isn't about scorekeeping, it's about self-respect. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to ask yourself, is this good for me too? Let me tell you about Marvin. Marvin is 67. He's the kind of man who'd drop anything to help his kids. For years, he did just that. Helped them move, watched the grandkids at the last minute, loaned money, without it ever being repaid. He never made a fuss. He told himself, that's what fathers do. But slowly, he started feeling bitter. Not because he didn't love his kids, but because the kindness started feeling expected. They stopped asking. They just told. They stopped thanking him. They just assumed. So one day, Marvin did something simple. He paused. The next time his daughter asked for a ride to the airport, he didn't answer right away. He said, let me check my schedule. I'll get back to you. That pause changed everything. It gave him space to assess. Am I saying yes because I want to, or because I'm afraid to say no? He realized he needed rest. He just had a medical procedure and was still recovering. So he called her back and said, I won't be able to take you this time, but I know you'll figure it out. At first, she was caught off guard, but she respected it. And over the next few weeks, something began to shift. She started checking in more, asking how he was feeling, thanking him more when he did help. Marvin didn't become less generous. He just became more intentional. And because of that, his generosity started to mean something again. That's the magic of the pause and assess method. Before agreeing to any major favor, stop and ask. Do I want to do this, or do I feel like I have to? Will I feel energized after, or depleted? Is this a healthy mutual exchange, or a one-way street? If the answer isn't clear, give yourself space. You're allowed to say, I need to think about it and get back to you. You are not selfish for protecting your energy. You are not difficult for wanting your kindness to be respected. You are simply human and wise enough to know that love needs balance. And here's something else you can do. Something quiet but powerful. Start a gratitude journal for yourself. Not a journal of what others say to you. A journal of what you value in your own life. Each day, write down one act of kindness you gave freely and felt good about. Then write one thing you did for yourself without guilt. This practice isn't about seeking praise. It's about shifting your center, reminding yourself that your value doesn't come from how much you give, but from the fullness of who you are. Because when your giving is grounded in peace, not pressure, it creates space for others to show up in new ways. You teach them that your time is precious, that your energy is sacred, that love is not about how much you sacrifice, but how fully you show up when it matters most. And you give yourself something even more important than appreciation. You give yourself freedom. It's never too late. No matter how distant things have become, no matter how many words were left unsaid, or how many moments felt one-sided, it's not too late to reconnect with your children. But here's the key. The connection you're seeking doesn't come from doing more, giving more, or trying harder to be liked. It comes from showing up whole. When you've done the work to respect yourself, to set boundaries, to honor your time, to live fully, you begin to radiate something different, something powerful, something calm. And when you shift, they notice. It may not happen overnight, but gradually your children will begin to see you not as someone trying to hold on to relevance, but as someone who has found it within themselves. This is called emotional mirroring. When you lead with steadiness, others are more likely to meet you there. When you speak with quiet confidence, your words carry weight. When you stop chasing closeness and start embodying self-worth, you invite, not demand, connection. Let's be honest, it's tempting to confront, to correct, to lecture your children about how they've treated you, especially when hurt runs deep. But real change doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from invitation, an invitation to reconnect, with clear expectations and a calm heart. Instead of saying, "You never call, you don't care about me," try this: "I'd love to connect more, but I also need to feel respected in our conversations." Instead of, "You don't appreciate everything I do," try, "I enjoy helping when I can, but I also need my time and energy to be valued." This kind of language opens the door. It creates space for dialogue instead of defensiveness. And it tells your children, "I still care, but I also care about myself now." That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Because here's what happens when you reconnect from a place of wholeness. You're no longer speaking from hurt. You're speaking from healing. You're not trying to fix the past. You're focused on creating something better in the present. And your children will feel that. They'll feel the steadiness in your tone, the clarity in your boundaries, the lightness in your presence when you're no longer carrying the weight of resentment. And often, that's when they begin to soften. Because just like you've longed to be seen, so have they. When you meet your children with honesty and love, but no longer from a place of neediness or fear, you create the foundation for something real, something grown, something mutual. It might not be perfect, it might take time, but it will be honest. And that is worth everything. So let me leave you with this. You don't have to shrink to keep the peace. Stand tall and speak soft. That's strength. And when you do, the people around you, especially your children, will begin to see that version of you. Not the one who always said yes, not the one who stayed silent, but the one who stands tall in love, wisdom, and self-respect. And that version is unforgettable. If you take one thing from this message today, let it be this: you are worthy of respect. Not because of what you've given, not because of what you've sacrificed, not because of how much you've done, but because of who you are right now, in this moment, without having to prove anything. You are not here to beg for attention. You are not here to carry the emotional weight of everyone around you. You are not here to fade into the background of your own story. This stage of life, it is not a retreat. It is a reinvention, a chance to redefine how you're seen, how you're heard, and how you show up for yourself and for the people you love. Maybe that means learning to say no without guilt. Maybe it means letting go of old habits that kept you small. Maybe it means saying, "This is what I need. This is who I am, and that is enough." Whatever it means for you, let this be the start, not of demanding respect, but of living in a way that commands it, quietly, consistently, and with grace. You have more wisdom now, more clarity, and yes, more power than you may realize. So start there, stand tall, speak softly, live fully, and let the people around you rise to meet that version of you. Before you go, if this message spoke to you, if even one part of it lit something inside you, let us know by tapping like on this video. It helps us reach more people just like you. If you haven't already, subscribe to Elders Guidance. We're here every week with strength, stories, and inspiration, designed for your journey, not someone else's. And if you know someone who's been feeling unseen or undervalued, share this with them. Remind them that it's never too late to reclaim their voice and rebuild respect from the inside out. Now, as we close, take a breath. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your spine straighten. Feel the truth of who you are, settling back into place. And as the screen fades, picture this. A woman in her 70s laughing with friends on a hiking trail. A man in his 60s leading a book club with spark in his eyes. A grandmother dancing barefoot at a backyard barbecue. A grandfather standing tall, saying no with a smile. A community of older adults, not fading, but thriving. This is you. This is your life. And it's just getting started. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought matters to me either way.